Alberta's provincial election is just 4 weeks away, and in the height of the political battle of Alberta, people are highly focused on the issues that need to be addressed in this province. Some of the large areas of discussion are economics and affordability. Albertans have experienced amazing days where oil and gas was booming, but unfortunately, Albertans have also experienced the low points of the oil and gas industry in the last few years due to destructive policies and the faults of politicians whose loyalty lies not with the people they are to serve, but with the ones pulling the strings behind them, rushing in Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. That being said, all industries additionally took a big hit due to the draconian lockdown measures from COVID-19, leaving city centers pretty much empty and businesses driven to shut down. Today, I am joined by Josh Andrus, the Executive Director of Project Confederation, a subsidiary of the Alberta Institute, to discuss factors around Alberta's economics and the policies that can benefit the province.
So Project Confederation is an advocacy organization dedicated to getting a better deal for Western Canada within Confederation. And it really spawned out of years and decades and over a century of frustrations that Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, British Columbia have all had with the way that we're treated within Confederation. For example, just equalization alone, Alberta's contributed over $600 billion, not million, but $1 billion to the rest of the country through taxes that we haven't got back in federal spending.
And in regards to the equalization payments, how is that affecting everyday Albertans?
Well, I mean, think about it this way. $600 billion over the course of 50, 60 years, and you divide that per Albertan is quite a bit of money. And it's one of those things where it eases the tax burden for the Alberta government as well. If we have that money that stays in Alberta, we don't have to make up for shortfalls in social programs and other areas like that are deemed necessary. It's another thing where we're very happy when in our good years to contribute to the rest of the country and to feel like we're a part of it and a part of building something that's, at least in a lot of people's opinions, out east is a great country. But it's just one of those things where when we're struggling and we're still paying billions, $20+ billion a year in equalization, it's not an actual payment, we don't write a check, but we're still contributing much more through equalization and other transfer programs to the rest of the country. But in bad years when we're struggling and the federal government's bringing in policies like the tanker ban, the Impact Assessment Act, and other policies that they brought in over the last few years here, it adds an element of tension when we are contributing and yet we're being punished by the federal government for our industries effectively.
What is the current state of the oil and gas in Alberta?
We do have the ability to produce affordable energy at a really good rate and to export that energy to the rest of the country, because energy is really the industry that powers every other industry. The factories out east, they need affordable energy. Households in not just Alberta but the rest of the country, they need affordable energy. They need to heat their homes. They need, the truckers need to affordable gas in their trucks so that they can get the product to the grocery store. So we do have the ability to contribute to easing affordability issues in the rest of the country, but we're not allowed to do it because the federal government has policies like the Impact Assessment Act, for example, which legally gives them the ability to override any project, whether it be energy, a gravel pit, anything like that, on environmental concerns. And those are moving goalposts. So yeah, we're in this situation where we can help the rest of the country, but we're not allowed to do it.
During those low moments of the oil and gas industry, many investors pulled out. How can we attract them back?
Well, I think it comes down to we do have the ability to provide a low tax environment. I think with the oil and gas industry contributing so much to provincial coffers through royalties, it's one of those things where we do have the ability to provide a low corporate tax environment.
And how is the World Economic Forum influencing our economics in Alberta and Canada?
So I don't really think I think the World Economic Forum is probably I think it's more of an ideas lab for poor policy. I'm sure that there's adherence to the World Economic Forum philosophy, but I think the philosophy itself is flawed. I don't think that forcing an entire global population off of fossil fuels is ethical, moral, or logical. I think that it has to be market-driven solutions, and if we force people to move off of affordable energy sources, all that's going to do is make it more difficult for them to afford the things that they need to afford.
Based on their policies, who has the better hand at helping Alberta economically, Rachel Notley or Danielle Smith?
It's one of those things where, as a province, I think we have to be concerned if we have a party that is ideologically opposed to the very sector that is driving business activity throughout the province. And it's one of those things that we do have to be very cautious of it. But the UCPs, they've done some good things as well, or they've done some good things. They've got a long way to go as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the dynamics are. But I do think that if we do have an NDP government in Alberta, it's going to be very polarizing.
So obviously, the Keystone Pipeline would be a huge economic benefit to this country and to this province. Why do you think the President of the United States, Joe Biden, pulled out? What's the real reason?
I think there is a weird, like, the Democrats are kind of divided in some ways, but the hard green left, in that the people that think we're, as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, that we're going to die in 7 years if we don't. She did backtrack, but it's one of those things where those are the people that are making decisions within the Democrat Party. Keystone would have been a huge help to them. I mean, why are we importing energy products from places that are run by dictatorships when we have perfectly good oil and gas and vital energy products right up north here?
What is currently driving the affordability crisis?
Well, it's a three-pronged issue. First of all, we've got poor monetary policy decisions made by central banks across the world, not just in Canada. But in Canada, we have a prime minister that doesn't think about monetary policy, and it shows. So monetary policy is effectively, it's the concept of money, which nobody really talks about money as a concept, but money is a concept. It's effectively, if you have a certain amount of supply of money in a system, there's a certain amount of demand for money in the system, and that's what drives, prices. So if you increase, and money being like any commodity, oil, gas, copper, gold, if you increase the supply of any commodity in the system, it decreases the value of each individual unit of that commodity. And with money, what that does is it decreases the purchasing power, driving prices up. So it almost has an inverse effect. The second driver on the current affordability crisis is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy being the amount of money the government spends. We've seen government spending absolutely explode over the last few years. The federal government, I think, had $70 billion of new spending in their most recent budget. That's a lot of money. That's going to add to price pressures. That's one thing that in this provincial election we also need to be concerned about. Alberta's rate of inflation is about 1.5% lower than the rest of the country, at least based on the February inflation number. That's a lot of that's driven by the fact that we've been, relative to other parts of the country, relatively fiscally responsible in this province. The third driver is actually energy policy. Energy, and I mentioned it earlier, is the policy energy is the industry that powers every other industry. And if you increase the cost of energy, be it through lack of supply or the carbon tax, or really even if you make it so that people, like, you can't get enough workers, so on and so forth, like the just transition will do, that will drive the cost of energy up. That drives up, if you think of any product that you use, this microphone, that bench over there, like every product that you use has a production cycle. If you increase input costs at every part of the production cycle, that compounds. And so that's the issue that we have. That's what's driving affordability crisis. That's why this election in Alberta is so important. There's two issues that we can control, and that is our fiscal policy, how much our government's spending, and our energy policy internally. We don't want another carbon tax. We don't want to see our budget start to expand, and because those are both add inflationary pressures to an already simmering affordability crisis.
It was great to hear from the Executive Director of Project Confederation. Now, the election is so close, so remember to head out and vote for who you think can help continue to develop and advance this beautiful province. Thank you for joining me today. Stay strong and stay free. For Rebel News, I'm Angelica Toy. If you're tired of Justin Trudeau and Ottawa meddling in the things that we do over here in the West, check out the Rebel News store for this awesome new Don't Ottawa, My Alberta t-shirt.